All right, well, thanks for having me today. I'm just recovering from a bruised rib and pneumonia. I'm sure I'm going to survive, maybe. As you can see, we're going to talk about the state of the city today, but I do want to take a moment to thank David Cook for being here. David has been on the RTC for some time. They do the funding for transportation. We've worked very well together. I've served as the TRTC chairman. We do the advocating for transportation and education on transportation. And I don't think it's any small thing to say is that the 287, 820, I-20 interchange wouldn't have been accomplished without substantial help from David Cook. And I'm so happy to hear that he's running for state representative. I appreciate having a local official up there who knows what local government deals with, especially after this last legislative session, which was a bit rough. But I know David has my full support because I've known him for so long time as being a man of honor, competency, integrity. So I'm glad to hear David. Thank you very much. So, as you can see, we have a new council from last year. We have Josh Altum. I don't think he's here. He's probably fighting fire somewhere. Chris Pugh, he's probably out drinking on some cruise, apparently. I don't know how that works out. And then Sandra Lee could not get on board today. And then Linda, glad you're here. Nice to see you again. I'm still alive. And Chad Blundell, who I think Chad is probably also working. Only retirees and professors have a lot of extra time. So let's get into what we've been doing lately in the city. This is our mission statement. And it's a great picture of Sonora Park. So we're talking budget and finance. You can see where our funds come from. We have all sorts of funds that are intermingled. We have a street fund. We've talked about maybe creating a special fee for the street fund. We have our water and sewer fund, which is generated by the water and sewer department. The debt service fund is what we use to pay off our debt, and we're looking to drop off some of those payments here within the next couple of years, which will allow us to issue more debt without raising the tax rate, which will allow us to do more infrastructure projects. I know we're looking at Peggy Lane, we are looking at College Sublet. There's a lot of different roads that we're looking at fixing. And one of the things that, since I've been on council, and I know John remembers this a long time ago in 2009, when we did a survey, the number one thing people said that they were upset about were streets. And since then, people are still upset about streets because we were way behind the curve on streets. And we've done a lot of street work in Old Town. And we've done a lot of streets with Sublet, we did Little Road, we did Bowman Springs. And we design our streets to make sure that we retain a country feel. That's why you see medians. And I think most places are looking to put more medians in there. It slows down your traffic. It keeps you a small town feel. And even though the lanes are the normal size lanes, they're designed to make you think they're narrower lanes to keep you going slowly. If we had put a 4-lane road down Sublet, it would have been just a speedway. Larry could have told you that, our traffic guy. And so we're seeing more towns doing what we're doing is putting in roundabouts. Roundabouts are great for clean air. It keeps people from idling their cars. And if you can remember what school traffic was like at Little Road and Wildcat Way before we put in a roundabout, it was a mess. And now it's getting better, although there's still some people I think don't know how to drive in a roundabout. It's a yield sign, not a stop sign. And I still yell at them in my car. So we also have the UDC fund, which the Economic Development Corporation, that is generated out of sales tax revenue that was approved by the voters. And our capital projects funds, which deals with things we're going to be building, roads and other big items. So that's our fund structure. As you can see here, our taxable values increased by $66 million. For some reason, the legislature blamed us for that. It's the fact of the matter is, Texas is popular. And people are moving to Texas in such large numbers. I think I saw a note at TRTC that every 4 minutes a new person moves into the Metroplex. Because the economy is growing, the economy is healthy here, and it's driving up property values, as you well know. I mean, my property was valued at $160,000 4 years ago. It's at $240,000 now. And could I sell my house for $240,000? Yeah, I think I could. I just couldn't buy one with the same size for that amount. Right down here on the end of the Tree Point and Wildcat Way, they're starting starter homes at $300,000. When did a starter home become $300,000? But that's the market. That's what the market's driving on here. So we increased the property rate by 1 cent. And one of the reasons we did this is that 2 years ago, we passed a raise for our first responders, a much needed raise, a raise that had been put off for way too long. And it had increased about $500,000 in funding that we needed in the budget. Well, then the council wanted to turn around and then cut the budget by about $300,000 in revenue. Well, this isn't Washington, D.C. We can't print money. I tried. I went to the copy machine back in City Hall. It didn't look anything like real money. So we went into a budget shortfall. And normally cities like to have a budget reserve of about 3 months in case there's some sort of disaster. There's a tornado, there's a hurricane, there's a Miley Cyrus concert. Something horrible happens to the community that we have to be able to recover from. So recently we've been running a fund balance, not of 3 months, but of 2 days. So that would cover us through Cats as an emergency, that terrible movie, but that's about as far as we can get through. So we're working hard and the staff is working hard to rebuild that budget balance, and it's doing it by holding off on hiring. We're trying to get more growth coming here. We've approved 2 major complexes worth of $50 million apiece, a total of $100 million in new property coming in over the next few years. But we need to rebuild that budget, and it's going to be a slow process, and George Campbell is working very diligently at doing that. It's just one of the things that we're going to have to struggle with. And the question is, because people say, well, why don't we do something about what the previous council did? It's pointless. That's the past. The future is, okay, we've got a new problem to solve. Let's work on solving the problem. Because one of the great things about being in government is you get to solve problems. And the stickier the problem, the more fun it tends to be. So I've always enjoyed solving sticky problems. So this is the effective property tax rate, which is what the effective rate is what we would have generated without any new revenue, just with new growth. The rollback rate is 73%. So our maintenance and operation is 54, and our debt service is 19. These are always complicated numbers. But when you look at the city's debt, we don't have a lot of debt. We're fairly average in debt. And I know John's been on council before, and that was mainly because for a long time we wouldn't pay cash as much as we could. We didn't do it in a lot of debt. And that helped raise our bond rating. We went to a AA- bond rating, but that may be in jeopardy now with our low fund balance, but we kept it this last time thanks to George making a convincing argument, and we hired a couple of thugs to go beat up some Moody's people. And they're just having us under credit watch right now, but I think we're going to make our way out of it. So, this next year we have about $27 million in new construction. That's going to be primarily over off Tree Point. Am I missing another one? Anybody? I know there's another one coming up somewhere. There's one over behind by Pennington's. I think is all done, right? That'll be coming online. And we do offer some exemptions, $60,000 for people over 65. I still got another 20 years before I can get that. It's funny about that. And for disabled people. All right, so here's the general fund. The fund balance for water and sewer fund is 31%. It's pretty good. That's the one positive here, and we've got a relationship with the City of Arlington to maintain our water and sewer maintenance operations, and eventually, hopefully, to consolidate our billing and customer service with Arlington. We did work with Fathom for a long time, but I'm under a non-disparagement agreement with Fathom.
I'm not.
Okay. And so I will not disparage them. I will say that of the City Council, I'm the only one who voted for it. So if you want to hate on somebody, here I am. But I think that the Arlington deal, again, I don't think this Arlington deal would have gotten through had it been for George, is that we know that when we do our billing, we know the city of Arlington's not going to go out of business. That's a positive. And by having Arlington doing our maintenance and operations, it saves us almost $500,000 a year. And for a city our size, that's important, because we were going to have to buy a vacuum truck. A vacuum truck helps clear out sewer lines, and that vacuum truck was going to be $500,000. And we had to pay an operator to do that. So we're talking $600,000 a year. Well, Arlington has vacuum trucks. And so we're saving money by not having to buy some of this equipment. They have their own engineering, own engineers in their group, and so we're saving money there as well. And so you've seen the Arlington trucks moving by. We're eventually switching over mainly to Arlington water. We still take some Fort Worth water. And the reason that Arlington is in on this is that Arlington wants to be able to sell water. They have an excess capacity of water, and they'd like to sell it to Burleson and places like that. And we're hoping in the long run that those connections will go through Kennedale, and that we will charge for a partial pass-through for the use of our pipes, so that we can also generate money from Arlington water passing through. But make no mistake about it, water is a critical component of the 21st century, and it's not going to get cheaper. When we see that one person's moving here every 4 days, or 4 minutes, every minute rather, that means they're going to have houses, and then they're going to want lawns. And believe it or not, the most water you use is where? Irrigation. Ask John Clark. He runs a $400 water bill a month. Irrigating is fine. Thank you, John, for keeping us in business. And so, but it's really a paradigm shift that people have always thought that water was cheap and inexpensive. Well, you live in Dallas. This isn't a rainforest. And so there was some talk at some point of shipping in water from Oklahoma. Now, I know Chief Williams would want to drink any Oklahoma water, but there were some talks. So I think the new arrangement with Arlington is going to be a positive. They've been good partners so far. Right now we're working with Muni Billing. Okay, see if I can get this straight. All right, so we have an agreement with Fathom. Fathom was going to help us, and George, if I get this wrong at all, I'm sure you'll let me know, is that they were going to help us shift our billing over to Arlington. And one of the agreements was that, okay, we have to write a $200,000 check to end the agreement with Fathom and save us money over a long period of time. We wrote the check, and then they went out of business. There's a no disparagement agreement. And so we were left hanging a bit to find something we could do to get our billing in place. And so George found Muni Billing, and that's going to be a temporary, I would think, a temporary solution. I think the long-term solution for us is to go out and get new water meters that Arlington can read, and that may run us around $350,000, but it would make everything so much smoother over the long period of time. Is that right, George? Yeah, I get it. I got that right. All right, so debt service. We issued some tax notes recently. Part of it is that we had money coming up, freed money from where we paid off our debt. And sometimes I hear this, they say, well, you know, you're doing COs, you're not going to the voters. Well, if you sat in and listened to our budget people, COs are for those things that you need, that need to be done. And a CO is a certificate of obligation, it just has to pass the council. It's for things that need to be done. General obligation bonds, in which you go to the voters, are for things that you want. For example, we want a new police and fire station. I mean, if you've seen where the building where the firemen have to stay was built for a volunteer fire department, we would like to have a new police fire station, state of the art. So for something like that, that's a want, we'll go to the public and ask the public to take a vote on that. We're examining what the cost of that might be right now. We've been working with Speed Factory. We're looking at what kind of tax rate would we have to increase, if at all. But we'll take that to the voters. But when we do COs, like these tax notes, this is to do things that we have to get done. Peggy Lane, Trent Street, and Peggy Lane's an expensive one. Collette Sublett Road. We have to do the engineerings on all of those things. And so that's where that money's going, and we're hoping that we can start building those streets. In the same way with the water fund, we're maybe doing a bond issue there. To do that, we're looking to replace all those water meters. So, going as fast as I can. Our infrastructure project. Well, the Kent Bell Sublett realignment is coming along. It's not really one of ours. It's the one, you know what we're all talking about. You're coming down from Kroger or Arlington, and I wish people would quit thanking me for our new Krogers. No, not ours. But the problem is, the road is Arlington, and for a long time that hasn't been a real priority for Arlington. But right before Andy Wynn left, he got together, we met at the county commissioner's office with the county judge, and, oh, I hate to say this, it was between that and Debbie Lane, and David Cook wasn't there that day. So, I go, no, it's got to be this one. And since the city manager of Arlington really wanted our water deal, I think, he said, yeah, I agree, let's get that one done. But we're still going to push for Debbie Lane. That needs to be done, no doubt about it. Regionally, it's critical. I know that 287 and 360 is critical for us to get done because it affects Kennedale residents just as much. But they're going to be looking at building this new roadway. Andy threw in another $2 million for the engineering. It's a $10 million project for 700 feet of road. As you can see, they'll be moving the road a little bit more north, and you'll lose that hidden bend that comes around there where you see people wrecking. And they'll put in some sidewalks. And we've gotten some cooperation, I think Chad G over here and John Clark, because they've pushed to work with Arlington on the right-of-way, because Chad realizes that this is important to the school and safety of his students who have to make that way. And so big kudos to Chad for doing that for us. Valley Lane is collapsing. That's never a good word to use in terms of a road, so we're using Trent Street as a way of holding off on some of that. Apparently we're giving Linda Road a lot of money. I don't know why, Linda, we're giving you all this money, but we are. That's a different Linda Road. Linda Road is going to be part of a project in bringing in a compressor company that will provide about 90 full-time jobs, good paying jobs. They're going to expand part of the road, and the idea is that if they're going to expand part of Little Road, then why don't we go in and get all of Linda Road, get all of Linda Road at one time, and then get in there and change the water and sewer pipes. I think we're looking at that, right? Are you seeing are the water lines asbestos cement lines through there, or are they just old lines? Yes. And so those are asbestos cement lines. Don't worry, you can drink asbestos, but just don't breathe it. So I'm told. That's right. So, yeah, don't take a shower and get steam. But we'll just leave that line in the ground for safety reasons. Again, Peggy Lane's got some issues with drainage, trees in the middle of the road. We've got some works on doing that, Collette Sublett. And then, of course, TxDOT's working on our New Hope Road bridge replacement down on New Hope Road. That's a dangerous road. That bridge is starting to collapse. And I'm glad to see we got it going. I remember a couple of years ago, somebody on council said, who cares if it collapses? It's only 4 feet. And I go, well, if you're a school bus and you're going 40 miles an hour, 4 feet is quite a drop. And speaking from somebody who fell off a tram face first 2 weeks ago, 2 feet's quite a drop. But don't worry, I stood up and pretended I was French. I didn't embarrass America.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So there's the New Hope Road Bridge, and TxDOT's going to be picking up essentially 100% of that cost, because we're going to be able to take the 20% we were supposed to give and use in other projects, right, George? Okay, just making sure. Okay, so here's Valley Lane. We have some stormwater problems. It's starting to collapse. I think we're looking at ways, rather than just building a wrap wall, maybe, if I remember Larry telling me, sloping it a bit, but that's going to take us some help from the Corps of Engineers. But I know what I'm talking about. Who knew? Just once, right? And so it's a problem. Valley Lane's a problem, and it's been a problem for some time, and we need to work on it. But limited budget means you really have to prioritize everything that you do. Community economic development, well, I gotta look this way. Like I said, we have about $168 million in new developments coming in. That's gonna help us. I think that's, in the long run, it's gonna help the school system. I know that the compressed air system will, because we're talking about bringing in a lot of capital improvement on the ground, but with no students. And that's a positive. And bringing in some new employees, because we shouldn't have a city where people can't find a job here, and a good paying job. And a good paying job shouldn't just be retail. I mean, I worked retail my whole life, but we want to see it where people can live and work in their community. I think this is a very good program. I think we were in competition with Mansfield on this one. So we got away with one. So here's some other ones. Hilltop has 35 single-family homes. That was Adelaide Pennington right over there. The Galena Village Creek's got 38. That's up there near the top. And then, of course, the Vineyards Phase 2, that filled up really fast. I mean, those homes filled up at $300,000 to $400,000 a piece. It's amazing what people are spending on homes today. Magnolia Hills. Okay, here's the question I get asked a lot about. Why is there a lake in Magnolia Hills at the end of Tree Point? Do they have an answer for that for me? I mean, why have they slowed the building down? George?
They were going through a process of redesigning some of the drainage and infrastructure. We now have those new plans in-house that have been approved, so you should see construction start up again out there pretty quickly. Okay, so
it's just some people are thinking that we had sprung a leak and there was a huge lake in the middle. I'll make sure I answer that tonight. Oaks Court, which is some single-family houses right next to the old Turner property. And here's something that we've talked about before, and I think we're talking about Kennedale Square. George and I talked about this at some time, is that in the town center maybe having some mixed-use development, or is that what we're talking about, or are we talking about the one across the street? What? Oh, the Little School Road one, okay, up near the top, okay. Yeah, that's the one up near the top, right next to the other apartments, 117 townhomes, and some commercial. Let me see if I have anything on that. Okay, you can see some other ones here. The Hammock Creek development, 107 apartments, 16 townhomes, some retail and office development, that's mixed use. I know that Mansfield's been very effective at their mixed use development and built some really nice projects. We'd like to be able to copy some of the things that they've done. The Coker property is going to bring in a $50 million development. Is there somebody I don't like here that I could go cough on for a second? I'm going to just cough on the money, and then nobody will want it. So, I think that's going to be a good project. People ask me, they worry about apartments, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions about apartments. I live in an apartment, and I'm an okay guy. But these apartments here at Coker Valley are going to be going at market rate. Some of them are going to be at $1,500 for a one bedroom. But mind you, buying a house, maybe you can't afford the down payment. And so when you look at crime rates are no higher in apartments than they are in housing. You see more dots because you have a higher density, but there's still the same number of police calls in most of these apartment complexes. We know that. So when I looked at the Coker property and deciding on whether I should support that or not, I thought, what else would go behind the Coker property? It's surrounded by 5 huge storage places, which, by the way, my gosh, clean out your garages. We don't need 5 huge storage places, right? Why are we all pack racking so much? So it seemed like, if you're going to do apartments, that seems like a great place to do it. And I don't see that many other places. Although, we have talked briefly, and generally, is that we we have 2 lots in town center. Is it possible that you might be able to put some suites or some lofts there that would sell, that people could say, okay, look, I'm living in the town center, there's a park behind me, the library's right there, the police station's right there for now. There's some shopping right here. Would that make any sense? It's a feasibility study that we're looking at. New programs? I'm running out of time. The home program, which will help you apply for electrical foundation and plumbing and roofing repairs. That's great. I know the county does a lot of this stuff if you're having problems, because really, there are 2 approaches when you see a house that doesn't meet code. You can go write tickets. What does that really solve? Not a whole lot. Or you can get out there and help them get their house up to code, and then what does that do for that neighborhood? Makes it better. It makes it a better place to live. And we've seen this over and over again. If we can get outside and help people get their house up to code, that's better than writing a bunch of tickets. And it's a positive program. This is great for the library. Tiny things in the library. It's fine free now. We don't have, if you have a book that's late, John, it's time for the turn in. I know your water bill's so high you can't pay the fine. But I think it was a great idea, and our library is being innovative because libraries are changing. People don't just necessarily check out books anymore. It's the internet, it's a social place. And our hope is that if we can get this fire police station built, we might be able to expand our library to increase what we need to do there in the library. There's just so much to do. The kids go, it's a community rallying place. And we have to make sure that our libraries stay functional. I was in Tromsø, Norway, 200 miles north of the Arctic Circle. They had a wonderful library. I went in it because I was freezing. We have a children's library program, right? There's all sorts of things we got in there. Book clubs, Lego clubs, story time, STEM club. I always find STEM club interesting because in 1950 they felt that we were way behind in science and mathematics. And here we are in 2017 and we feel we're way behind in science and mathematics. Kennedale Greenway, we got a grant to do park design and to create a trail along Village Creek. Right now we're taking public input. You can go onto that website and find it. I know, again, I can brag about Mansfield, but you guys have done a great job with your park trail. Right? Are you running in your race in 2 weeks? Which one, the half marathon or the 5K? Okay, I gotta run the half. I beat the mayor of Burleson. I gotta go beat the mayor of Mansfield. And if I have to trip him, I'm going to. We're looking at the complete streets system. It's something that, this is why city government has ruined my life. Because when I travel to Amsterdam and these other places, all I see is city design. I'm looking at how they've designed their roads, how they've designed their parkways. In fact, in Amsterdam, you don't even see cars a lot of times. And in Harlem, no cars. People are walking, they're biking, there's a tram. It makes it where the city can be a walkable city, where people can move about and not need a car. And we went and talked to Michael Morris from COG, and he's willing to help us design and hopefully fund a complete street project on the parkway. I forget, does it go to Eden Road to?
We have 3 miles, so we haven't figured that out.
Yeah, we're going to try to get as many of the 3 miles as we can, so that the kids can cross the street, right? Right now, trying to cross Kennedale Parkway, it's scary. It's Roman roulette, for God's sakes. You don't know if you're going to get shot, not shot, but run over. And I know John is trying to run me over several times. So it's going to be a lot to it, redesigning the street, maybe creating an architectural design showing that you're coming into Kennedale. One of the reasons that they built this in the first place was, back in 2005, was to help us with economic development. And now they're coming back to help us finish the job. Oops. Back. Safe routes to schools. Again, this is a great thing. COG is helping us out to create sidewalks throughout near Delaney and Arthur, so that kids can walk to school and stay off the roads. The federal funding of that is $661,000. I think our funding portion is around $179,000. Is that something right? Somewhere around there. George looks pained by that. But $179,000, and that's what the city has to do. The city has to constantly match funds. We don't have a lot of money, so we have to really sort of stretch our dollars and try to match funds wherever we can, and that takes a staff willing to get out there and hustle up this grant money. And there's a map of where we're going to be building sidewalks. And still some more maps. And of course, I think we still have a problem with the traffic around Delaney and Arthur, and so we're looking at ways to try to make that traffic smoother. We're going to try to work with the school district. We've got to get that done. It's been a problem for some time. As you know, nowadays you can vote anywhere in Tane County on election day. You used to only be able to do that during primary elections, early voting rather. I tend to think, and I may be the minority here in politics, we should be making it easier for people to vote, not more difficult. But for some reason we want to make it more difficult. A community events, you can see we do the fall sweep, we do the cleanup, we do Bark in the Park, we do Fish in the Park, we do Kennedale Theater in the Park with my wonderful singing voice. There's Bark in the Park. I would bring my dog, but my dog's insane. Trunk or Treat, that's been a huge success. More and more people every year coming out to Trunk or Treat. It's amazing the number of people that come out and participate. It was smaller at first, it's gotten bigger. Kids come out, parents come out. I think the best thing I saw last year was a family of raptors. They were all dressed up, hopping around. That was hilarious. How did I get back to Bark in the Park? I can't know how to operate this thing. We've operated a junior police academy under Officer Starling. I think that's great. Getting kids involved in law enforcement, especially those who want to be a career law enforcement officer. If I'm shorter on those things, it's because I don't know as much about them. And then, of course, there's always the Christmas tree lighting festival where we get to light the tree, and most of the time the tree lights when it's supposed to. Sometimes we get a countdown and we miss it by a few inches, and Santa's always there. And the schools come out and they sing, and if there's one way you want to get people to come to your events, get the students involved. Get the students involved, and then the parents show up. And so we've always had a lot of success with that. We've had our public safety open house, which is always popular. Come out and see what the firefighters do and see the helicopter come in. Prescription drug picnic, that happens at my house. So if you have any, just drop them off at my house. I may need them. But no, we don't offer the police department, and they can dispose of them, because whatever you do, don't flush them. Because we don't all need to be on your drugs. Going the wrong way again. Okay. Questions. A couple of things I'll say is that I have started a Q&A on my mayor's Facebook page. I show up, I've done one with John Clark, and we're live, and you can ask any question you want to ask anytime. There's one thing that I'm not afraid of is answering questions. And so I'm going to do another one tonight in response to this event, and then I'll do another one at least once a week where I get on air and answer any questions. Because if I don't know the answer, I certainly can find out the answer. Questions? Yes? Which highway? That I don't know. George, what's the construction? We'll find out.
On Mansfield Parkway, the county is actually thinking of ditches.
Okay, so what about the freeway then?
The Parkway,
Yeah, Parkway.
AT&T is doing, several communication companies doing a lot of fiber optic installation.
Well, that's what that is. Got so many answers. Any other questions?
So what is the city plan for the future when the population grows and the school population?
Well, in 1965, they estimated the population of Canada would be 60,000 people. I'm sorry, 30,000 people. My mistake. 30,000 people. We're at 8,000 something right now. They were off a little bit. And that's one thing about futurists. Futurists, they tend to be wrong. So far, we haven't seen our growth in the public schools have been somewhat flat. But, whenever I look at a subdivision or something come in, I'm always on the phone with John Clark or Julie Webb or even the ex-member Mike Walker or Joe can call me and we can talk about what the possible impact of that might be. But I think we're seeing, we added a lot of homes recently and we haven't seen that big of a growth in the school system. So that'll be something we'll work closely with the school district on. Questions? Yes?
Are you running this year?
That's a good question. Questions? Yes?
When you talked about apartment complexes and the idea of having a $1,500 rent and why wouldn't you just buy a house, have you addressed the property tax problem? I mean, that is why you would pay $1,500 for an apartment and not a house.
Well, you still pay property taxes when you're in an apartment.
Exactly,
Right.
because you're paying your rent. But if you know what your rent is, it's easier than when you don't know what your taxes are going to be every year.
Well, part of the problem with property taxes, especially in Canada, and Canada relies heavily on residential property taxes. So is Forest Hill. I think Forest Hill's at, 101, somewhere around there, and we're at 73. But when you look at someplace like Lake Worth, which is at 49, well, why? Is it because they're better with their money than we are? No, it's because they have retail. And the way you get yourself out of a property tax issue is creating more retail and sales tax opportunities. That's how you have to do it. And that's a struggle because maybe you've gotten letters for the Canada Alliance of Business Owners, which is operated by Ron Sturgeon and Jim Palmer, that's Orioles superstar, Joe Palmer. Their goal is to keep the salvage arts here. Our goal is to redevelop that area into a more sustainable tax base. And if possible, work with those groups. Because that's how we're going to get out of this, is we're going to have to get some retail and generate retail here. And part of the problem is, and we all know it, when you live in Canada, where do you go shop? Mansfield? I go to the Target in Mansfield. We have grocery stores that surround us that are in Arlington, right? And so that makes it difficult for us to get our own grocery store. And people, when they go to work outside of Canada. When they go play, they go out to dinner. They're going to go outside of Canada. So there's
They
this.
have club meetings.
Yeah, they have club meetings. They go outside of Canada. And so you have people living here, but they're going this way. We need them to be going this way, and we have to give them a reason for wanting to go into the downtown area. And I think that's going to be a struggle. I think, again, like the Canada Alliance of Business Owners, they're going to be targeting incumbents. I know they'll target Linda, because you're so mean, Linda. And Chris Pugh, because he's so, I don't know, probably inebriated right now on his cruise.
He's on vacation.
He's on vacation, it's fair. So that's going to be the struggle that we face. And it's going to be a tough campaign because fear-mongering does better than facts in campaigns. So we have to increase our revenue.
Your hotel coming?
Yes, the hotel's coming. In fact, they've been doing some brush clearing. They were due to have everything, all their plans ready by December. George, are they through to that part?
They've submitted plans, they've been cleared to start clearing and grading. I don't think we've finished reviewing the detailed construction plan, or we're waiting on some drainage.
And so that's why that 287 I-20 interchange is critical to us. It could change the whole face of that area. And of course, with the hotel coming in, you can have a room occupancy tax that is used for tourism. So you could be able to fund more city events for people to do. Any other questions?
How are we doing on the police officer and the fire department growth? When you have the city population growth, so you haven't had that many people, that many police officers.
Well, I hear this at times too, like, so we'll need another fire department, another fire station. I don't think so. Our critical need, and when it comes to the fire department, is having a above-grade crossing so that our fire department, when we start building down toward the south, doesn't have to wait for a train station. That's the key thing going on there. We're never going to have the revenue or the need to build a second fire station, I don't think. But Chief may disagree with me, but I think if we have a centrally located one, I think we could be fine. And we're always going to be a little bit short of police officers, and at least the police department makes money, not like the fire department. Just kidding, just kidding. See, my house is going to burn down, and he is not going to come. He'll watch. They'll bring marshmallows. Yeah, marshmallows and gasoline. But I think we'll be fine there. People think that when we're at 8,000, we go to 12,000, that suddenly we have to double everything. We don't. One of the things that we do is we operate into mutual aid agreements. Mutual aid agreements in Mansfield, Arlington. You know, Mansfield does our jail and our dispatch, mainly because one of the things the county wanted us to do was to consolidate. They didn't like all these things. And it took cities working together to consolidate and streamline our services to give us better services and a more responsive service. Any other questions?
Right, the idea of all the construction up here on the interchange, I-22, 87 on it makes me kind of nervous thinking about what's going to happen with traffic on the Parkway and Southern Road and so forth. Is it a real concern?
Well, George, Melissa, and I sat down and talked with Michael Morris. Michael Morris is a nationally known transportation guru. He runs everything throughout this area. I know David can tell you how bright he really is. He says the way we're going to design this is that we won't see that problem.
Is that right?
Yeah. But my only concern about this is that, and I think David would agree with me, is that we should have gone further than Sublette Road in that expansion. We should have gone much further, because I know that for Mansfield people, when you come up in the morning, it's slowing them to get to the work, and that's reduced productivity. And we need to get expanded down there. I mean, one of the two big projects I'd like to see is expanding that further south and also fixing the 287, 360 at the end of that area. Because the growth down there is incredible. And we have to think regionally. It's always important.
What about the possibility of a train stop?
Still like to see the train stop. You know, one of the things that we did was we bought land over there by Sonora Park, which some people thought was some sort of a nefarious deal. Actually, the lady wouldn't sell to the city, but she would sell to Bob Hart, so Bob Hart bought it and then flipped it over to the city. That was the only way she would sell it. And so the city owns that land for a future train stop, because we know, and I know Mansfield's got land for a train stop at some point, that when you put in a train stop, it's economic development. People build around a train stop. And at some point, you're going to have to do it. It's just having the matter of working with BNSF, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to do that. The trains people have seen us as the enemy for some time, local government, and on TRTC, we're now inviting BNSF to be a board member so that they can see and work with us on some of those issues. That's important. We'd like to see it. I think I just turned this thing off. Yes, I did. I can talk about it anyway. All right. Oh, there it goes. Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I'm probably going to go home and go to bed. Go back to sleep. Maybe play some World of Warcraft. Lie in bed. So thank you, everybody, for coming out. And I'll be checking my